All right. Hello, everyone. I see people just coming into the meeting still. So we are going to, I'm going to give it another minute and then we'll get the show started. Thanks to everyone for joining. There's a couple more. Okay. Well, let's begin. I want to thank everybody for joining us today for the latest edition of Partner Office Hours. My name is Ken Clements, and I'm a member of the partner team here at Litmus. If you have any issues with today's webinar, please feel free to message me in the chat window, or you can also email me at ken.clements@litmus.io, and I'll do my best to take care of whatever is going on for you so that you can pay attention or get the whole session. We are recording today, and we will be sending out a copy of the recording for everyone afterwards. So if you do miss anything, we'll make sure that you get it. And I'd like to introduce first Hossein Gilanmorad. I always mess it up, Hossein, I'm sorry. Who's our main presenter today. Hossein's been a member of our sales engineering team for a few years now. And like myself, we're both based in the Seattle, Washington suburbs. And then we also have with us, as usual, Dylan McClure. Dylan is based in Detroit and also a member of our sales engineering team. I think, Dylan, you've been here for about a year. So thank you both again for joining me for Partner Office Hours. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about one of the more interesting features within the Litmus Industrial Automation Platform. This is our digital twins capability. So this is going to help support manufacturers who want to create virtual models of their assets and their operations. And then in turn, you can, with that data, you can simulate and data flow, simulate performance, monitor health, and even optimize production before implementing any changes on the shop floor, which is pretty interesting. And so if you, as a systems integrator, bring this capability to your customers, it can really help you stand apart from your competition. Now, before we dive in, I have just one housekeeping note to make. Sometimes we ask people to hold your questions, but today we're going to take those live. We're going to try to make it more conversational. So if you could start muted, but then if you have a question, just raise your hand, and then I or Hossein will call on you. And Hossein, I'll do my best to help you see who's doing that. But we'll just keep this, we'll try to make this one more interactive for us. And then if you have a question that you feel like, oh, that went past us, no problem. You can just go ahead and put it in the chat window or hold it to the end, and we'll make sure we answer everyone's questions. With that, Hossein, let's dive into digital twins.
That sounds good. Thank you, Ken. And as Ken mentioned, please let's make this conversational. I would want to make sure that those questions are addressed early on as we're going through this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and a little bit about me actually as well. So I have been at Litmus for 3 years now. And as Ken mentioned, I am part of the sales engineering team. So we usually typically support on the technical side of things when engaged with the customer. We'll help out the partners. make sure that you have all the tools that you need from a technical standpoint to be able to do your job. So this partner office hours, as Ken mentioned, we're going to be talking about digital twins, which when we are talking about digital twins, we're talking about digital twins from a basically a data standpoint. So really, we're talking about a data model. And what we're referring to, what I had planned for today is to go through what is a data model, why it's important, typically the customer journey that we see and the evolution within that typically, like how we actually see where customers typically start, where they get to. I have a hands-on demo that I wanted to do with everyone here. And then we had some new features that have built some demos out, basically demonstrations out in our digital twin feature right here. And then we have the ability, we wanted to talk about the just kind of like some of the use cases as well. And then we have time for any last discussions in the Q&A section as well. If you wanted to hold your questions, you're welcome to also do that. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about what the data model is, right? So at its heart, typically a data model, it could be something as simple as just a number that you're reading off of a gauge, right? Obviously, this doesn't tell us much, right? So in an ideal case scenario, we would actually have some voltage, something with units that will tell us something about that data. And what we have here is typically in a manufacturing facility, you would have a SCADA, which in the middle you would have a protocol converter from your sensors, your anything that is collecting that data, your PLCs, and then you're actually putting that into a SCADA system. And the reason I have this in here is at its core, this is actually a data model. It's just visualized in with basically your plant right on there, right? So you have the ability to see all the data models or data pieces on here, along with some units, where they're actually coming from, because that shows you, well, if something is coming from a pump or a valve, or whether a valve is open or closed, right? So that's essentially a Boolean that shows, well, what is the status of this, and we can take this and compile this along with timestamps, because this is only at one point in time, and take that and show that essentially in a data model with values as well. So to kind of resonate with what we work with, I wanted to show this because I think this does a good job of explaining it, and it seems to resonate with folks a lot. Now, to get into this a little bit further, right? So from Litmus Edge, obviously, if you're here, you probably worked with Litmus Edge, but what we're doing is a lot of times we're connecting at least to a PLC very often, right? And we have some tags here that basically will actually bring into Litmus Edge and give it a payload, right? So we'll talk about what that payload looks like, what we see as a data model when it actually lands into Litmus Edge, and what that means typically for us, right? And then on top of that, we also have other sources that we can actually bring in, especially in the 4.0, there's some more database connectivity that we can do inherently in Device Hub. We obviously can connect to applications and SCADAs, and if there's protocols that we wanted to connect to, and we can bring that in, and again normalize that into a payload that makes sense for our use case essentially. And again, that's a data model that we have, right? And we can take that, we can create a asset model from those pieces of data that we have from these tags and different sources that we have. We can take that and do some analytics with it, and then we can build a use case model, which I will talk about shortly here as well. So that's basically what is a data model. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is why it's important. And actually, this when Dylan and I were talking about this, when we were planning for this. One of the things that we thought, well, data model, having a data model and having context is very important, because if you want to do any sort of a calculation, any sort of ML and AI, that becomes very valuable. And we thought, well, how could we actually demonstrate this? So we actually put this into ChatGPT, right? So this number that we had, 12.3, in case you didn't see it, I put it into ChatGPT, and I have the best model that there is out there. And I said, well, what does this mean to you? And it was confused right off the bat. It said, well, I don't know what this means. Can you clarify what this means? So we took that and said, well, this actually means there's actually, I know that there's a voltage reading behind this, right? Because that was the second step from that piece of knowledge that we had. So I said, well, hey, give me 12.3 volts. What does that mean? So it gave me some generic answer about what 12.3 volts is, that this is a potential difference. If it's a battery, here are the cases. If it's a power supply, here are the cases. And then if it's measured under load, what that means. And then I decided to give it a little bit more context and I said, well, hey, this is actually coming from a CNC machine. And now it actually had some information around it. I said, well, if you measure this, you can actually, if it's from the power rail, you can actually have this information about it. If it's from the motor drive or servo, this information, and so on and so forth. So really, we did this to actually demonstrate how important it is to have that context, because a lot of customers sometimes will actually miss this, and it's important to kind of understand that, right? So at its core, we actually have this in a triangular form, where at the bottom, you're really starting with the instrumentation, logging, and sensors, and you're kind of building your way up to that, right? So in Litmus Edge, we actually have the ability to extract that information, transform that, and load that. We have the ability to clean that data, do any sort of anomaly detection. We like to do, obviously, some analytics as well. And then if you have that context, all this becomes very simple. And then, we actually will be able to enable the machine learning and the AI as well pretty simply up here. So that's kind of like the progression that we see here. Are there any questions on the what and the why? I want to just quickly pause for a second. Okay.
Nothing
All
in the
right.
chat.
So, okay, cool. Thank you. So then we'll move on to the data journey, what typically we see customers follow, right? So as we mentioned, any raw data in theory will actually be a data model as well, right? So that could be any formats, right? It could be a float, it could be an integer, it could be a Boolean, it could be a string, and that could be just a number, right? Now, more often than not, we won't just have a number, we would have a tag name, value, and time step. But if you land the data into Litmus Edge, you will actually have a normalized tag right in Device Hub right off the bat, right? So that looks something like this, where you have the device name, the tag name, the success, and a number of things right here that right off the bat we're actually adding to that. And obviously, you all will know that we have the metadata tool right here as well. Then this is where we actually are getting into the digital twins feature, where we're actually taking that data and actually adding more context to it, building an asset model, which we'll do in our exercise today as well. And we have the ability to analyze that and write some basic logic either in digital twins or further in analytics, but our focus will mainly be in digital twins today. And then we can actually build a use case model at basically at its core as well and kind of build that out. So for today's purpose, we had I had some hands-on demo that we wanted to do, as we usually do, and then I wanted to actually go through and explain some of the examples that we built as well. So maybe I'll take a second, see if there's any questions about any of this, and if not, then we'll move on. Sorry, Ken, was that
I think we're good.
We're good? Okay, cool. So thumbs up. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, cool. In that case, I'm going to move on to this. So in this case, I am using our latest version, which actually has a 2-hour trial on here. In case you haven't tried it, please download that from our platform and actually from our portal, litmus.io, and you have the ability to actually use this. So this gives you a 2-hour window, which you can actually utilize. I use this because I'm trying to kind of see what if I'm supporting it, I need to understand it obviously as well. So I like to get my hands on there. So I figured, if you guys want to, please download it from the portal as well. So I loaded our digital factory through our marketplace, actually, which maybe I'll quickly show here as well. So you have the ability to actually deploy that. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but you have the ability to deploy this through our marketplace, which I have done. And then you'll see that some of these basically the simulators that we would have normally on here loaded up as well. I've created a simulator for the intent of our conversation today, and we'll use this to build out the digital twins and make sure that we have what we want today, basically, as well. So right here, we can see that we have the simulator. The simulator has 4 tags: pressure, voltage, is running, and temperature that are being pulled once every 5 seconds. And then we have some of these addresses basically leading up to that. And then we also have define a formula for this as well behind the scenes to make sure that this is actually generating in a manner that makes sense for our conversation today. So now we're going to take this. I'm going to go ahead and these are the 2 models that we'll talk about in a second here. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and actually create an asset called pump. This asset, we're going to go into it. I'm going to give it some static attributes. So if you're not familiar with this, the static and dynamic attributes were always there. Transformation was always there as well. But static attributes are attributes that will basically not change over time. Dynamic attributes are attributes that will change with every data point typically, right? So the pressures and the temperatures that we have in mind that we created in our device hub will actually sit right here. The static attributes will sit right here. Another new feature that you probably have not explored yet, it is parameters. We will talk about some of those in here, and then we'll talk about some of the other features that we have as well here. But let's add some information here. So let's say that this pump is sitting somewhere in our bottling line. I'm going to go ahead and add this, and we'll say that this is sitting in Seattle. We have, let's say, device type. We'll just call it what it is. So we're just adding some metadata right here, right? So manufacturer. And then we'll give it a model number as well here. Okay. So I don't need to do this, but just out of habit, I'm going to go ahead and save that. But I should be able to just move on to my dynamic attributes here as well. For my dynamic attributes, I'll give pressure, which by default, if you do actually do this, you will see that there is different data types, but by default, this is actually set to JSON. And I'm going to go ahead and leave this as is for now. And I'm not going to give it a topic structure just yet, but we will do that in a second. And then for the second one, we're going to do temperature. And for that, I'm going to also do JSON, but in this case, I'm going to skip the key to show what that looks like here as well. All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to say the model before we get into the schema so they actually show up. So I have the ability to sync these attributes. And you can see that once I sync these, you actually will have the dynamic and the static attributes show up right here very orderly as well. So let me just go ahead and rename these to something that makes sense for my operation. I'm going to call these metrics, and I'm going to call this metadata. And we're going to go ahead and save this. And because we don't have any models or instances of this model, we don't need to actually upgrade this, but we actually have the ability to do that as well. And you can notice that every time I save this, it's actually saved as a version as well. So that's another indication that this has been saved successfully on my end. So the next thing is to now actually go in and inherit that. So I'm going to go ahead and call this pump01. I'm going to make sure that this is only taking in at an interval of once every 5 seconds, just so we're not overcrowding this. And actually, one thing that I'm going to go back to make this easier to identify, I'm going to go ahead and add an image, save this, upgrade, and we should be able to see that image show up as well right here. So right here we have our pump. So now we're going to get into this instance. We're going to now get more granular and actually do this and change this out to pump01. We're going to say that if this has been moved, we can actually do this. Let's say this is moved from the bottling line to the can line. We can actually move this around, and if this is a different model, or if you want to give it a little bit more specific, we can actually do that as well. Then the next thing is actually going through and adding some of that information, like the temperature information, basically, so we can actually browse this very simply from Device Hub. I'm going to take the temperature, I'm going to add this topic, and I'm going to go ahead and add some of that information on the pressure. I'm going to add this topic, and once I've done that, I can save it. It tells me that once I've actually saved it, I got to restart this instance, so it actually takes effects, and I should be able to see this data show up very quickly here. So you can see these metrics that have shown up right here. Just quickly see. Right. So we have the data that we actually have right here, or we want right here, is actually showing up pretty simply. So we have the pressure right here, and then we also have the temperature that actually is kind of embedded around it. Because we've skipped the key, you can see that that key has not shown up. So we can actually see, we will go ahead and change that in a second, but you have the ability to do that as well here.
Hossein, can we capture, like how frequently can we capture data? Like can it be sub-second?
Yeah. So sub-second, we can actually bring the data in. There is a little feature in here actually that you can go as low as 1 second. So you're capturing it, but you're not actually polling it. So you can poll it on demand as well. So there's a couple aspects to that, but we can go as low as 0, which is basically don't do this. Don't put any values into here. But yeah, so these values will actually come through, and you can actually capture it as you need to, basically, as well. Good question. Yeah. All right. So now that we've created this instance of basically data right here, what you've noticed is that some of this information, this is actually the whole payload. Now, what if you wanted to clean this payload out, right? Like we wanted to make sure that this information is coming through, and it basically doesn't have all the other stuff that we wanted to. So we're going to go back into this. We're going to actually make some upgrades as we're learning more about our data, right? So we're going to introduce transformations. So within transformations, essentially, we're going to call this value and time, right? So you have 2 schema types. We're going to explore both today, but we're going to talk about the JSON one first. And what we have here is right here, we're just going to define this as value, and then we're going to call it timestamp right here, And we're going to define this for one of the values here in a second, but we'll go ahead and add this. We can see the whole schema right here, and then we can actually go into our dynamic attributes. I'm going to take this away just so we have the ability to do that, so we can actually see it properly. And then 1 second, I think it's just the name that I gave it. It doesn't actually like the and in here, so we'll just give it again. Perfect. Okay, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and upgrade this right here, and those instances should be upgraded. I should be able to see that's basically we actually have that version right here. So I'm going to go and get into the pump instance here. We're going to look at what that data looks like now. So now I should see the temperature, the key, as well as only the timestamp and the value right here. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to go ahead and create some simple logic. I mentioned that we can actually do that. We actually have another transformation schema type that we can utilize, which is called JSONata. So in here, we're actually going to say, basically, we'll just call it logic and cleansing, maybe we'll call it, right? So in this case, we're actually cleaning up some of that data. I have made sure that, basically we have something that makes sense for our use case. But we have, a device name, value, and tag name. And essentially what we have, we are actually building a simple if-else statement where if success is, true, we actually say okay, otherwise we'll say failed. We are converting that timestamp to something that is human readable. And then we also have the alerting, which is we're taking that and saying if the value is above 50, then define this as high temperature, otherwise it's normal. So let's go ahead and add this logic right here. And we're going to go ahead and take this. We're going to do some moving around since we actually use this for temperature. We'll actually go ahead and that makes more sense as a model right here. We're going to go ahead and upgrade this. And now we're going to go back to our instance and utilize that right here as well. All right. So you should be able to see.
Hossein, on the model, I would double check the
Did I do it wrong?
transformation.
Yeah, I think I may have done it incorrectly here.
Yeah, I think when you put it back, it applied. Yeah. So just...
Okay. I see what you did. What do you mean? Thank you. Yeah, I did not say that properly. Thank you. So we'll just go ahead and do this. Save. Thank you. All right, we'll look at this data again. Okay, awesome. So at this point, you can see that so the device name, the status of that tag, the tag name. So all that logic is being done, and then we're actually doing some real-time formatting of that data right in Digital Twins very simply here with a very simple function, and it allows us to see that data and utilize it very simply right here. Now, the other feature that I mentioned we have is parameters. Let's get into parameters and talk about what that looks like, what that means. So a lot of times, as you all know, we actually have this naming convention that we follow within Litmus Edge, right? This naming convention is a unified namespace at its core, essentially, right, where we have device hub.alias dot device name dot basically the tag name. So in this case, what we can define is we can actually go ahead and define this as, we'll just call this device, and we'll call this device 1. And no, one second. So we're going to do this again. Device, and then device 1. I'm going to save this. I'm going to save this into my instance right here, or my model rather here. And now I'm going to go ahead and give it basically that, just do it this way, where we actually have pressure here. And we can actually now tell it to define that as a parameter. So I can go back and define that very simply. So let's quickly look at this. Here, I'll grab the temperature one as well. So this has been done so we can actually scale this very rapidly across a plant with the tags that are going to be repeated across your plant as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, save this model. And I think should have changed in the schema. So we're going to go ahead and upgrade. You see that I forgot to upgrade, but it actually prompted me to do that. And I'm going to go through here, and I'm going to show this right here. So in this case, we should actually see device 1 reflecting, meaning that there should be no data actually showing up until I define that as well. So we can see these are actually coming back as null right here. Right. So the next thing is to actually go through and define those parameters right here. So basically, in this case, I have this right here, which that's what I decided to call my device. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to go ahead and define this, and you should be able to see that right here, this actually populated right here. And if I subscribe to this, I will see that this will actually we now have our pressure and temperature tags shown again right here as well. The next couple of features that I wanted to show here as well. So this is basically parameters. We also have the ability to import and export CSV files, right? So we can actually export this to batch upload this if you wanted to work on that on a CSV file. We can do that in the dynamic attributes as well as the static attributes. We can actually import that very similarly. We also have the ability to take this and create flatten that hierarchy. So we can actually do this. This is very useful when you wanted to use this for a database. We can actually flatten that hierarchy, create that, and use that flattened hierarchy to now push that into map it into a database essentially. And then we also have the ability to publish attributes. So if I were to click, we'll just quickly show both of these. We will actually have some NATS topics, which will allow us to, take this and take that into a flattened hierarchy, show that, and you can drop that as into our SQL or any sort of a database that we're mapping. And then the attributes would be, this actually would have appeared basically based off of me publishing the attributes. I can take only the static attributes in here or the dynamic attributes pretty simply right here basically as well. So that's basically that concludes the part of the demo where we actually were going to do this hands-on. Are there any questions around that? Okay.
Hossein, there was a question here about use cases for digital twins. I think one of the ways that you and I were chatting about this was trying to figure out ways to support predictive maintenance or experimenting with tweaks to your line to optimize performance, like improve OEE before you actually implement. But can this data, do you think that we could use this data to actually build an LLM?
Yeah, so the idea here is to clean the data before you send it to the cloud, right? So we're kind of doing this kind of like a pre-processing before we actually send it to the cloud. A lot of times the cloud vendors, and sorry, I do see that you said that the screen is not shared. You can still see my screen, right?
I can, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Yeah. EHAB, I can, yeah, we'll check EHAB.
Yeah. Please, yeah, let us know if you still can't see it in here. But yeah, so essentially what we have, right? We actually talk with a lot of our cloud partners as well, right? About this, where typically they'll take care of the enterprise data and they're cleaning it at an enterprise level. But we actually need to be able to keep the costs at a reasonable value for the customers, so we can actually make sure that the project is successful. We need to do some of that pre-processing before we send it to the cloud. Right, and we're doing this at an asset level, and we can do this at a plant level as well, right? So we can create multiple digital twins that are kind of feeding into one. If, let's say, you define multiple assets that are feeding into the plant model, essentially, as well.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Nope.
No, please. Yeah. So I was just going to get into the next part, but yeah, let's address the questions. So go ahead, Ken.
Do you have more you're going to show here before we get into?
I was gonna. Yeah. So there's two other instances that we have, right? So this is actually I created this based off of a use case that we had actually for the Tulip conference a couple of weeks ago, and really what this was is we created a model, right? And this will hopefully kind of make more sense with the question that you were asking earlier too, or that was asked. But basically, we actually broke this down into three categories, essentially at a high level, right? So there's some raw data, some calculated data like availability, OEE, that we have all in a flat model, and then we also have this, with basically some into like one flat format. Once we've done this, we actually took that and we put this into our instance. I'll just take any of them, really, right? We've populated it, right? And you can see that this is actually, if you don't have parameters, this would be a very difficult process, right? So we've created this using the parameters, and this has actually been populated for a flat model. And just by the way, some of this analyzed data, we're actually doing this in the background in a dynamic manner. So if you look at our analytics right here, there's some simple logic that I've actually written right here as well that allows me to, so you can either use JavaScript or JSONata. I decided to use JSONata right here, but you can write a simple JavaScript as well to actually build basically the topic right here. So let me have a look at this. You can see that I'm actually creating this topic right here, which in turn, just going to go ahead and do this, which in turn will actually allow me to use that dynamically. So I have plant 1, line 1, machine 3, and then I'm dynamically creating that as an analytics.oee topic right here, right? So this will automatically populate this, and I can actually put that into my parameter right here if I wanted to. Actually, I think I only have it in this other one where I have the analytics topic building up right here, right? So we can very quickly scale this. This will probably take you under half an hour if you actually have a plan, and you can actually do this very quickly across the board, right? And then you can actually have, in this manner, you will be able to see this right here. We have the analytics.oe underscore. These topics have automatically populated in my model, which in turn have allowed me to create this model and have access to it very simply. And you notice that I actually went into another model. This is slightly different, where you have a nested model, which you have, some information like the good part, bad part. Really, we broke this down into 3 categories, right? Right data, raw data, operational data, where we're actually grabbing information like SKU and work order, and then the information like the metadata, like the location of this, as well as the analyzed data. So we're actually breaking this down into multiple levels, very simply using the data. So the idea again is to pre-process this, cleanse that data, drop anything that you don't want, have anything that you do want in there before you send it to the cloud, before you store that, because every time you are processing this in the cloud, that will cost the customer something, essentially. I'm just getting caught up on the chat here. Yeah, that is basically correct. So every time, yeah, the digital twins we're really looking at it from a purely a data standpoint because we are a data ops company, right? So we are actually looking at this and saying, well, hey, we're taking this data, we're actually pre-processing it, cleansing it, and here are the tools that you have available at hand to be able to do that, essentially. Did I miss anything? So I just see.
Not in the chat. You're good.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Okay. Awesome. Are there any other questions about the new features that we have, about the what we're talking about in general here at a high level? I think this is the opportunity to discuss this as a group.
Well, Hossein, maybe following on to Nangar's question, hopefully I said that right. What are like some of the common misconceptions that people have about digital twins that you've seen?
I think sometimes people shy away from actually trying it and maybe building something out, right? So as you can see, I've made mistakes throughout the demo, right? And if you actually want to change it, you should actually basically have that. So make sure that you are actually are doing that. The other thing is a lot of times people will think of digital twins as the 3D model, right? But there's a whole data layer underneath that we're actually we have to prepare, right? So those are kind of the 2 things: is don't be afraid to get started, and then the other thing is basically if you want, like basically just realize that we're talking about it from a data ops standpoint.
Yeah, and I think the idea like about making mistakes is this is the place to do it, right? You're not impacting real data because you're working with that twin. So you can mess around with it all you want in theory to experiment and learn and see what happens.
Yeah, it's still anything that I've seen too, right? Like a lot of times people, especially because we work with smart engineers that want to make sure that they're getting it right the first time. But it's important to realize that this will evolve as I showed, right? Like we will see that customers will start somewhere and their data model will evolve, what they'll learn about their operations will evolve, right? So this will be a continuously continuous loop essentially, and like an iterative process basically.
Let's see, there are a couple questions in Q&A. One is, are you able to access instance data from flows, analytics, and integrations?
Yes. Yeah, so the topics that I showed, and that's an excellent question, by the way. The topics that I showed, so you actually have the ability to see these instances in your flows or your analytics very simply. So if I were to do this, I can actually go ahead and show that right here. So you can see I was actually demonstrating the flattened model as well, but in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and clear this, but you can actually see that data coming through as well. And this is available anywhere in Litmus Edge that has basically the ability to see that value, or you can actually send that value up, or even back down if you wanted to, right? Depending on which direction you're going, based off of that, either up to the cloud or back down to your plant floor, or any of your assets, basically. Getting caught up on the.
Yeah, and then there's another question here about, you've shown a lot here about capturing data, but can you use the digital twin to send data to an asset? Like if you want to adjust settings?
Yeah, so you can do that. There is guardrails around what device hub will actually take, right? So again, this data is available to be able to send either upwards to a cloud, or it is available to actually prep and send it down to back to the PLC level as well. You will have to make that connection. That's done by design, so we're not actually just directly sending something by mistake, right? So you actually have to be very intentional about it, but the possibility is there.
So Hossein, if a partner wants to start experimenting with digital twins within our platform, what's the best place for them to begin?
Yeah, so we can. I think downloading this latest version and starting to work on this is actually a good idea. We have 4.0.1 available in our portal.litmus.io, which I'll quickly drop here as well. And the customers will have or the partners will have the ability to take this and essentially utilize it in their. And I see that you've done that actually already, Ken. Thank you. But that's under a developer tag, which you have the ability to download. And then it's a 2-hour trial that you'll be able to utilize and do all the things that we did today. Our digital twins has some of that as well, by the way. We are in the process of coming up with a new version, basically under the digital twins, because there's a lot of new features that we can utilize now. So we are going to upgrade that. So you'll see that in the coming weeks and months, probably as well.
Nice. Now, if someone's going in there and building a digital twin for the first time, what's like the most common mistake or maybe oversight that people make?
I think just making sure that you're saving things properly. That's probably one of the things that you all saw that I made as well, right? Just make sure that you're doing that. And I think that's make sure you have as much data as you can have. A lot of times, cloud storage costs are not as high as they used to be, right? I think making sure that you have that data, because sometimes you don't know what you're going to need until you actually really need it, right? Because you're going to learn more about your data and about the customer's data. So adding context early on will actually enable you later, in my opinion.
And what do we have for training resources?
Great question. The Academy actually has, and I'll drop a link to that as well here. The Academy has a lot of resources on this that we can actually utilize. In fact, that what we went through today is also captured in the Academy as well. And I think you should be able to see this in your end, on your end, but this will allow you to basically get more advanced hands-on time with the Academy or with the Litmus Edge digital twins. I believe we have 3 modules in there, 3 new modules in there that allow digital twins learning in there.
Nice. Vikram, if you want to come off mute and ask your question, I just want to make sure we cover it. So Hossein, Vikram was asking about companies are in the process of implementing digital twins. Vikram, if you could maybe elaborate on what you're trying to understand. Okay, well, I tell you what, Vikram. Oops, sorry,
I just noticed that maybe he didn't have the ability to actually unmute himself. Vikram, did you want to try again?
I think we have a problem, Houston. Let's see. Well, apologies.
Vikram, so basically the process doesn't change. And if you wanted to unmute yourself, yeah, there you go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
The company has all the DCS systems, data collection points in place. They send everything to the data lake on the historian system. But they're still finding they are looking at certain value where Litmus can add, in basically, what kind of value, especially from the safety point of view. It's a chemical company, so they're looking at mostly from the safety aspect.
Yeah. So actually, I think Vikram, you feel free to correct me on this, but you're also thinking about digital twins from like a typically where the industry will think, well, we're actually creating this plant on a 3D environment. Is that kind of what you're thinking about as well? First of all.
Correct. So there are multiple units, so there are those standards, standard rules.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually have a customer that's doing that. Exactly what you said, right? They're in a very intense environment, essentially, where they need to actually have a digital twins to be able to make sure their workers are safe and all that, right? To do that, I mean, the process doesn't really change, right? You still will actually read that data, assuming that the DCS system will probably talk some sort of common protocol like an OPC UA. We'll bring that data in, and we can actually build that model out for their digital twin from a data standpoint, and then you can send it to that digital twin. We can talk about some of the details of like what system they're using for their digital twin side of things. So we can actually typically a lot of times, from what I've seen, there will be some sort of a connection either from our end. It would be like an MQTT or a Kafka, which we'll actually need to be able to send that information to the customer's end, basically as well, to their digital twin. But it doesn't really change anything from the stuff we talked about today. We'll still prepare that model. We'll send that out to the source that they want, and then they can actually visualize it.
Perfect. Got it.
Yeah. Thank you for the question. And sorry, if anybody else wants to be unmuted, we did not realize we can actually please put your hand up, and we'll make sure that we're giving you the mic. Okay.
Any other questions? Well, the questions don't have to stop now. We'll be sending out an email with a recording of the session. Actually, the webinar platform will send it, but Hossein, Dylan, myself, we're all happy to take questions. You just use our first name last name at litmus.io, and we're happy to help out. But for today's session, like I said, we'll send you that email with a recording. Also going to send you a quick survey that's going to ask you for your feedback about today's session. And the thing we'd really like to know is if there's any topics you want us to cover in future office hour sessions. Now, our next one is going to be on December 9th, same time of day. And we're going to send you an email invitation to remind you about that as well. Hope to see you there. by the way, speaking of December, the week before our next office hours, I'm going to be at the AWS reInvent conference. And if anybody here is going to be there as well, I would love to catch up in person. So please let me know. Again, ken.clements@litmus.io. But for today, thank you very much for attending this session of Litmus Partner Office Hours. And I hope everyone here has a great day. Take care. Thanks, Hossein. Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you.